This week in our collective heads, wanna put an old rumor to bed. Stereotype that you've all heard, how we're all just angry video game nerds. Most of us have actual jobs, kids and families and cats and dogs, yeah. This week in our collective heads, this week in our collective heads.
Welcome to This Week in Our Collective Heads. I'm Patrick, joined by Kevin, as always, or as hopefully usually, giving you the gaming news like we do every single week, early, as late as we can, in any way we can. We try to get you the gaming news and get you what's important, so that way you know what actually is happening in gaming and why it's important. It's fun.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll start this week like we do pretty much every week with the backwards compatible game for this week, which is Battlefield 1943, which it's really fun to sit and try to name the battlefields in order.
Yeah.
As you get Battlefield 1 last year and Battlefield V, it gets kind of crazy. But
yeah.
Battlefield 1943 is one of the, I think it's the second or third one.
Something like that. I get them completely confused. I get the idea of having sequels, obviously, but the spin-offs, and my problem is when you have what should be traditional sequels aren't labeled as such. That is what gets really confusing like this. I didn't play 1943. I played a handful of Battlefield games, and this was not one of them. Assuming by the year we're talking about World War II, so...
Yeah, actually, specifically toward the end of the war. So this 1943 would be about the time that the U.S. started participating. You've got D-Day, you've got the classic battles.
Exactly. Well, I said World War II, and World War II started and ended when the U.S. came in. So America. No, I'm joking. It's the everything that happened in the war America was in like hardly any of. Actually, recently read a recent thing that was talking about how if America hadn't entered the war, that Germany still would have lost about the same time period, specifically because of how horribly stretched then Germany was and financially, resource-wise, and Russia had completely wrecked them at that point.
And also oil-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really interesting, like, we as Americans are like, yeah, we've saved you, and they didn't. They appreciated us being there. We helped, but they would have won either way, and they would have won around the same time. Either way, I just think it's interesting.
But the Manhattan Project is all us.
The Manhattan Project is all of us, and the aliens, and the reverse engineering and all that, yeah.
Exactly. So, moving on to other aliens, which is No Man's Sky finally gets multiplayer.
Yeah. And this is what they said was going to happen. They said that it would be rare, but it was possible in the launch game, and it turns out no. It was never. It was never a thing. So almost 2 years afterwards, we're actually getting multiplayer in No Man's Sky. The question is, even with the proper multiplayer being added, is it going to be enough to keep the game afloat?
Well, I think that with the influx of new people coming in, I mean, there's not going to be the same robust community that's been built on PlayStation. Yeah. But there's fresh wave of people, and so honestly it's probably better to go ahead and jump onto Xbox and experience it anew with a bunch of people who are trying to figure out how to make this a multiplayer game, how to enjoy it in this new aspect.
I agree. I will say, first prediction in a while from me. That doesn't have to do with E3, because we're going to talk about E3 predictions later on, or later this week. But my prediction is that there will be a No Man's Sky 2, which will have all the stuff that No Man's Sky 1 was supposed to have, because this is still adding a good amount. This update goes a little bit above and beyond what No Man's Sky 1 was doing, but I think to save face, they're going to come out with a sequel. And it's going to be, I mean, we won't hear about it until late this year, early next year, but they're going to come out with a sequel. That's my feeling about it.
Okay, I will counter that prediction and tell you that over the next 3 years, we will not hear anything about a No Man's Sky 2. Not going to happen.
I would rather that. We need to move on to bigger and better games that are...
Joe Danger 3.
Yeah, exactly. And what is it called? Dual. I always forget it. It's Dual Universes. Dual.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, and I forgot the name. I don't remember, honestly. They just barely like talk about it, and no one's talking about it. So I'll have to look it up, and I'll tell you about it next week. Speaking of next week, which is not next week, Sony's talked about focusing on software until March 2021, specifically on the PlayStation 4 and PSN, which I literally read some people talking about. Some people saying that was Sony saying that they're out of the console game, they're out of video game making.
No, no, people, wherever you are, and
yeah.
You know what? I don't have to tell our audience. Our audience is better informed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in addition to this news, we did hear PlayStation. They were talking about PlayStation 4's ending reaching end of life, referring to how they support it. And at the same thing, people were saying, "Oh, PlayStation 5 will be the end of this year." Like, well, no, that's not how.
A bit of context for that comment is that this was during an earnings call, and they were talking about the fact that for the first couple of years of the PlayStation 4's life, it continued to ramp up, and they were selling more and more copies. Yeah. And it peaked, and now it's starting to kind of slope back down. Correct. And so they're still selling a lot. Like last month, in the month of April, PlayStation 4 was the best-selling console of the three. But they're not selling at the same numbers that they were before, so it's starting to arc down, and they don't think that that's going to come back up at any point. Yeah. And so that's what they mean. It's basically we're on the downslope of the bell curve.
Sure, and that's when, from an investment standpoint, that's when you start looking at what's on the horizon, and that's what they're referring to. Is basically like, okay, we know that we're on that end of the bell curve. What are we looking at for in the horizon? Which is basically their way of telling investors, we know that we're reaching this point, and we're aware of it, and we're planning. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's basically, because if you don't do something like that, then you putter out and you lose revenue. Because this is all about new revenue. You're losing new revenue, it's a problem. Yeah.
Indeed. Speaking of new revenue, they also, the PlayStation boss also talked about the possibility of another portable gaming device. And he talked about how he didn't specifically mention the Switch, but he talked about the way that portable and handheld gaming continues. And it'll be interesting to see if they do another, if they call it a PlayStation Portable, the Vita 2, or something like that, or if they do some version of what the Switch has done.
I would love that. I think that they should do that. I think that they should do that, and a lot of PSN games should and can and should be put onto the portable device as well. There are PSN games like that are previously PS3 and others that could easily be ported over. Sony, thankfully, if you buy it on one, you get it on the others. So I'm hoping that would continue. I don't think this is outside of the realm of possibilities at all. Sony learned from their mistakes in regards to their portables. They also learned who plays portables more than anybody else. And Sony's a Japanese company, and Japan is the one who has fed the Vita for so long. It's the reason that the Vita kept going for so long. I don't think that this is out of the realm of possibilities, but I think that, like you mentioned, they need to do something innovative, or either innovative or copy the Switch. Honestly, the Switch has nailed the idea of mobile gaming as well as adding flexibility to be a console gaming machine. And what that does is, from a buyer's perspective, especially from a parent or someone who's budgeting, you're looking at that saying, I spend $300, I get a 2-for-1. And that makes it really easy to justify $300 for that, as opposed to $300 for a handheld that will not be able to dock. I think that it really helps with that. The only difference is, if it does have the docking capability and everything, you're going to have some interesting branding confusion with the PlayStation 4 or 5 at this point, and the PlayStation on the go, or whatever the heck they're going to call it. They can't call it PlayStation Portable because we've done that. But yeah, whatever they're going to call it, they're going to have branding confusion, which is what Nintendo kind of had until the Switch got in enough people's hands, and then everyone went, "Oh, this is different."
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah. Once people had the Switch in their hands, they were like, "Oh, this is different than the 3DS," and most of them said, I'll sell my 3DS, I'll go with this. And then some, like Redbeard and a handful of others, are like, I'm going to keep playing my 3DS until it dies, like you're doing with the Vita.
Yeah.
Or have done.
Have
done.
But yeah, so going back to Japan, more news for there. Yakuza 3 through 5 have been announced as remasters. We don't have any Western release dates yet, but we do have the Yakuza series continuing. So I believe that this is all of them coming to PlayStation 4, which is exciting for people from that series, because over the last week, if you're following us on Twitch, and should be up soon on YouTube, I've been playing through Dark Souls Remastered for the first time. So and that's been a blast, and I've really been having fun with the chat and talking with people about what I'm missing and things like that. And it's so good, y'all.
I tried not to do that on text because you were talking about specific things, and I was like, I didn't want to tell you something before, because part of the beauty of the Souls games is exploring. And I didn't want to spoil things for you. So when you were like, I'm doing this, I'm like, okay, have you gotten here? Have you gotten there? And I think at that point you hadn't gotten past the dragon on the bridge, and I was like, there's two ways, because I didn't want to say. So did you get past them by going down the sewer? Or did someone tell you the cheap way? How did you get past the dragon?
I went under the dragon to the bonfire right there.
You can hide from the dragon. He will come out and land on the bridge. You can run underneath his legs and run past him.
Right. And
not have to go to any of the stuff underneath. Yeah, it's like, if you want to speed run, that's the way to do it. Also, if you just want to really quickly hit that bonfire, that's really cool.
Yeah.
But that's why I was like, there's two ways that I can't tell you, because I didn't want to ruin it for you. Yeah. The plunging attack on the Taurus, that you killed the Taurus legit melee, right? Or sorry, you're a caster, right?
Yeah, hybrid.
Hybrid, okay. So
anyway, watch that series. Let's get back to the news. I'm having a ton of fun with Dark Souls, as I knew I would.
Yeah. So in completely different news, because Dark Souls is amazing, but we'll digress just to make sure we save time. Epic's committed $100 million in Fortnite competitions. Now, that doesn't mean $100 million for the winner. That means $100 million in total. I have to make that clear. But it makes me really curious. I know that they're getting a lot of revenue now, and they really want to pump up Fortnite. But it makes you really curious that all of this is happening on a game that hasn't really actually launched. The Fortnite full game has not launched. We're playing Battle Royale, which is the freebie game that gets microtransactions, and it makes a lot of money. It's making a lot of money, but I feel like this is just going to take some crazy turn. The momentum is going crazy on this, and it's kind of like the new Star Wars movies, where your expectations of what it's going to be are going to be so different than what it actually is. And when the real game comes out, people are going to be like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted more maps of Battle Royale and this and that. And everyone has their own idea of what they want it to be. Yeah. And they can't, and at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. You can't continue to do what you're doing with the same map and keep making money. The bottom is going to come out. So I feel like this is a really smart way for them to invest in their players and get people to keep playing. I just don't know how to feel about their future when the actual game comes out. I don't know.
Yeah. And we'll see how they choose to do that. I mean, PUBG was wildly successful before it launched, and once it launched, then it finished off some of the bugs, things like that. But
and then it petered out, and Fortnite took over.
Basically, yeah.
So that's what
because it was free.
Yeah, because it was free. Fortnite, the real game is coming out, which I talked to my nephew plays Fortnite, and I've told him this a couple times. He didn't click to him until like the second or third time, and I was like, that's not even the game. That's the freebie thing that we're playing now. The real game is coming out. And he's like, but this is awesome. I'm like, yeah, I know. It is awesome. And he's like, well, what's the real game? And I'm like, well, we don't know a lot about it. I told him a little bit. And he was like, but I just want to play this.
But I'm playing this one, yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to have to give the option of like, okay, now you have to pay for it. He's not paid for the Save the World or whatever the heck it's called. The actual campaign-ish thing that's part of Battle Royale, he's not paid for.
Yeah.
Most people haven't, unless you pay for it just to get exclusive skins. That's really what and to rack up stuff to not have to pay as much microtransactions. Either way, I just think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting way to reinvest in their community, and this is the largest, if I'm not mistaken, this is the largest amount of money in regards to esports competition that's going to be rewarded.
It'll also be interesting to see how it gets laid out, because Fortnite is only 100 at a time, and so it'll be interesting to see how they format this. Whether it's going to be a tournament, whether it's going to be multiple tournaments, how this is going to play out. But Epic is definitely committed to Fortnite Battle Royale. You guys love it. Let's keep doing that.
Yeah. And my view of how they need to run it, real quick, would be you can't just have a straight up tournament because you have 100 people, one person wins.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't tell you who the best people were. In fact, a lot of times the top 10 doesn't tell you who the best people were, because luck is always a factor. So I think at best 2 out of 3, and then you take an aggregate of the ranking system, take the top 10 of that aggregate, and you keep moving on. You can easily do that with an astronomical amount of players. Mm-hmm. So everyone plays. It takes the aggregate of your 3 games and it ranks you. And then if you're within the top 10 of the people who played the first tier, you go up. And you can do that mathematically through the back end of the servers. You can do that very easily and not have to worry about people saying, oh, you were first, you get to go forward. If you were second, you don't. Because that's cheap to me.
Yeah. What if they had 4 rounds? You had a 50 versus 50, 4 teams of 25, 10 teams of 10, 20 teams of 5, and then the final battle royale.
I think that's just too random there. The amount of different skill sets involved are very different. A solo battle royale versus a squad battle royale, they're very different. 50 to 50 is also very different. I think you're talking about different skill sets there, and it would be hard to rank people and understand, if someone is really, really good at like 2 out of 4 of those, to me, I think it'd be better to go with a team and solo, so that way they have like best team and best solo, because you can have a team of 4 that work great. You can have someone who's just solo and works great. It works for both of those. I think that once you start saying every player gets put into all of those, then you have issues where people will start blaming teammates for different issues. You'll have people who didn't concentrate on squad, or maybe they never concentrated on single player and they only play with their squad. That'd be like if Overwatch had a battle royale mode, and now Overwatch players are ranked by battle royale and they're team based at the same time, and it's like that's 2 different things. Like you should be able to be a team player or a solo. So
I can see that.
Speaking of solo, I liked it. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, there you go.
I had fun.
Continuing with battle royale stuff, Radical Heights and Boss Key Productions, which was Cliff Bleszinski's team that made what was that one called?
Lawbreakers.
Lawbreakers. Thank you. And then quickly turned around and brought out this new version of a battle royale type thing. That studio is shutting down. They're going to keep the servers on for a while. It was kind of a last ditch effort of. Quick, let's come up with something and see if we can get a little bit of revenue in here.
Which is exactly what we said when the game when they announced the game, a month ago?
Yeah.
They announced the game, and I think that you and I both said this is just a quick cash grab because everyone's doing Battle Royale and their other stuff failed. And it wasn't enough to keep them afloat. Honestly, from a business perspective, the fact that they announced a game and then announced that the studio was closing, and then now are shutting everything down within a month or so is incredibly bad, incredibly poor business planning, because those resources, when Lawbreakers didn't work and they took those resources and said, let's make a Battle Royale game, made it. And I'm going to guess that they've only spent like a handful of months on that, because that they've been really following Fortnite. Spent a handful of months on that and then are now shutting down. The fact that they couldn't see that they were that close to, to completely going bankrupt or however you want to, whatever their actual financial situation is amazing to me. I feel like maybe, I don't know the inner workings of Radical Heights, but I feel like maybe they put a lot of the onus on Cliff Bleszinski in regards to what they're going to do, what the direction of the company is, and there wasn't enough people to say, hey, we can only survive for like 4 months. Let's do something. And because if your answer is we can only survive for 4 months, hey, let's do a Battle Royale game. No, you need to look at, at 4 months you need to be partnering with people, kind of like People Can Fly did with Gearbox. Great example of a company that went, we didn't do great with Bulletstorm. It didn't sell as well as we wanted. We're still wanting more projects. Hey, let's partner with you. Let's keep this going. You appreciate us, and try to keep the business going. So I don't know what Cliff's going to do at this point. I know he's wasn't he the one who's talking about moving on and kind of reevaluating how he wants to do gaming? I think I'm mixing him up with somebody else.
Possibly. I'm not entirely sure. I know he's stepping away from gaming for a little bit to kind of figure out what it is that he wants to do next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish him luck. He's been in the business for quite a while, so I wish him luck, and I hope that this is a cautionary tale to show how liquid and volatile the gaming market can be. If you let's be honest here, Lawbreakers and their Battle Royale game, they both were hitting fads of one ilk or another. Lawbreakers was very Overwatch, and their Battle Royale game was very Fortnite. So I think that really it should be a cautionary tale to say this is art, and what you should do is be innovative, of course.
Find your own vision.
But find your own vision. Don't completely copy. If you're copying, you should be looking at something and going, that would be cool if we did this too. And then do that thing, because that works. That always works. It has to have your own vision, though. On to a completely other topic stuff, but because we could keep ranting about those kind of things. We got word there's an official PlayStation 4 Custom Controller that's being released, which to me it reminds me a lot of the Xbox Custom Controller in regards to the paddles on the back. This is a great example of copying. In a good way, which is what PlayStation did, honestly, from the Super Nintendo. They copied their controller layout from the Super Nintendo because they said, "Hey, that worked. Let's do it." Yeah. I think it looks really cool. I don't know if I'm going to get one. I tried the paddles at Alex's and a couple other places. I know that it will work for certain games. I'm not big into competitive shooters and those type of things. Yeah. I would say if I played an MMO, like people who play Final Fantasy right now, people who play Final Fantasy 14 on PlayStation, I think this would be great in regards to macros, in regards to setting up your character, because that's one thing that MMOs lack in regards to like PC versus that. I don't think this controller's maybe not for me. The quality looks great, though. What do you think?
That you can have offset thumbsticks, which is something that a lot of people really prefer from the Xbox.
Yep.
but $170 for the wired version, $200 for the wireless.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I do like the idea of the offset. You and I talked about this forever ago, and I know I've talked about this as well. I had a PlayStation 3 and an Xbox 360, and there were a lot of games I didn't like playing on PlayStation 3 because of the way the controller was set up, the way that the analog sticks were. It's personal preference, that's all it is. And switching between the two controllers was really hard for me. I got a third-party Batman PlayStation 3 controller, but it felt similar to an Xbox controller, and then I was playing a lot more first-person shooters that I was not playing before. I was playing RPGs and third-person action, but I would not. Cover shooters were not working for me. First-person shooters were not working for me. So that being said, this could be something, if you have a preference, like you said, for offset, that could be really good for that. I don't have as much of a problem with thumb placement and offset versus parallel, whatever, mirrored, as I did the analog stick tension, and that's to me what I think is more important. And it does have customizable thumbsticks, different heights, and it's concave or convex. So I think that's more important than the offset, in my opinion. But to each their own. To each their own. Either way, it's a cool product. I like that that's on the market for people who want to use something like that.
Yeah. And speaking of things that you can hold in your hand, Overwatch announced two different kinds of physical things that you can do. They announced that they're having Lego sets coming out in 2019 and Nerf guns, which I think is awesome. I would love to have, like, which one would you want?
Honestly, I don't know. I have to look and see which ones they're going to put out. I mean,
okay. I think that Diva's little pistol things are really cool looking.
Pistol things would be cool. I prefer rifles. Judging by the quick graphics that we got there, it looks like they use those balls that they have out of I can't remember the term for it. It's like the Nerf ones that they're not the darts, but they're the balls that launch.
Yeah.
I think those are cooler. I'd prefer something like that. I'm a 90s kid, so I love the ridiculous oversized guns that are it doesn't need to be that big. Cable, your gun doesn't need to be this big, but it is, and it's awesome. So I don't know which gun personally, but I don't like the pistols as much. I don't know. I like rifles.
Well, you can also fit a lot more ammo into the rifles.
Yeah.
So.
Well, even if it's the same amount of ammo, I think it's a control thing, probably. As well as you can get a little bit more velocity out of a rifle versus and I'm just talking about Nerf guns, not actual ammunition, not actual firearms, but you can get a lot more velocity and aim better, and that's actually true in both real and fake firearms. But you can aim better on the rifles, so that's my preference.
So let us know in the comments what Overwatch Nerf gun you want and which of the Lego sets, because they didn't tell us which Lego sets they're going to be doing. I'm really hoping for that Mexican/Italian town. was one of my favorites.
It makes me wonder how if they're going to be the small Lego sets, and by small I mean what are they like? I know the Lego prices more better than I do. I think the $40 or so, which are the small play sets, about yay big.
I think it would be really fun if to just have the little figurine versions of some of the Overwatch characters. I think that'd be cool. It would be cool.
Either way, I'd like to have figures. That'd be really cool. The Nerf guns, in regards to actually collecting, I'd probably go with any of them. I mean, there are going to be some really cool designs, so I'll probably look at that specifically. Because the people I play in when I do play Overwatch, I can't think of a Winston gun that I'd want. I played Hanzo a little bit recently, but I don't know. Tracer would be cool.
I think Soldier 76 is an obvious one.
Yeah. Soldiers, and it's probably the one I'll get, but we'll see. We'll see what they come out with. It's a definitely obvious one for them to release, though.
Yeah.
Oh, and the revolvers. What's his name?
McCree.
Yeah. Revolvers. I love revolvers.
So there you go.
Yeah. Anyways.
Speaking of things that I plan to buy, Hours of Darkness is the first piece of DLC from Far Cry 5. Mm-hmm. And it's the Vietnam set one, yes. And they've announced that that's coming out June 5th, mm-hmm. and then the Far Cry 3 standalone, which was announced, it's part of the season pass or the deluxe editions of Far Cry 5.
Yeah,
and so the Far Cry 3, they're calling it Far Cry Classic, is being remastered, and that's being brought out here in a couple weeks, and then it'll be available for a standalone purchase 4 weeks later on June 22nd.
Yeah,
so.
Far Cry
3 remains my favorite.
Far Cry 3 is great. I love the setting. I love the. That's one thing I do miss in Far Cry 5 is, and 3 and 4 had the idea of you go out if you need a bigger ammo pouch, right? You have to hunt certain animals and make that. Yeah. I know that they've kind of simplified that a little bit in saying in 5 where you can sell the pelts and it gets you money, but the money doesn't get you bigger pouches. So that's the only thing that I felt was kind of a weird shift for them. But I love 3, and this is one reason why I need to get the season pass, because I didn't get the ultimate Far Cry. The amount of DLC that comes out and the quality DLC that comes out for the Far Cry games has been phenomenal. Blood Dragon remains one of my favorite games, regardless of the fact that it's a short spin-off game of Far Cry. I absolutely love it. So I'm looking forward to, I definitely look forward to this, and it'll come in, I guess. I need to finish Far Cry 5. I'm almost done with the last of the Seed children of Seed.
Sure.
The seedlings.
Yes, the seedlings.
Yeah, I'm almost done with them. So once I'm done with them, then I guess on to Father, and I'm gonna guess that's gonna be short at that point, maybe an hour or two. I haven't looked. Yeah. My guess is you beat these areas, and then it triggers a thing for Father. You take him down, and then you're done. But but I'm loving the game. Sorry. On to other news though, because we need to get a couple more items. Wolf Among Us Season 2 has been announced for 2019, which you and I both had the same reaction to, which was, I thought this was over.
Because Telltale announced that several of their series, that they were going to be cutting back, and several of their series were curtailed. And they said, we're not going to be continuing these series. And I thought Wolf Among Us was one of those that got cut, but apparently...
Yeah, I thought it was too. I think that whether it was or not at that time, it maybe have been a reevaluation. Honestly, and I'm hoping this is the case. I'm hoping that it was a revelation within the creative team where someone went, I've got a really good idea for this storyline for Wolf Among Us, and it was enough for people to get behind it, because that's how games, in my opinion, that's how games should work. If you make games like this, right?
Yeah.
If you make games and you're not wanting to innovate constantly like Nicholas and others do, because that's a completely different realm. If you make Telltale games, your idea is, I want to tell a story. I want it to be branching. How do you do that in whatever world you're doing it? Wolf Among Us nailed it, and I feel that, or I hope that they wouldn't do a sequel unless they had a real reason and a real trajectory to hit, as opposed to just, I need to make money.
Well, that's one of the things that Naughty Dog's talked about. They've said, Last of Us 2 is something that exists because we were like, hey, I have a great idea for what we could do in that universe.
Yeah.
And that's when production started for Last of Us 2. And hopefully that's what happened with Wolf Among Us Season 2, that they were like, that somebody came up with a brilliant idea of, what if we did this thing?
Yeah. I hope that's the reason, because we still haven't gotten any more Game of Thrones, and I like that. Then again, with Game of Thrones, I feel like you walk a thin line of, am I retelling things that happen on the show, which the Telltale Game of Thrones didn't do, and I really enjoyed because of that. And how much do you flesh out of a world that's so deep already? How much do you flesh out, and how do you walk that line where you're not violating anything, and any problems? Violate any continuity issues, violate any I don't know.
Yeah.
Problems in the story.
Speaking of George R.R. Martin, did you hear about the Ice Dragon animated?
Ice Dragon no.
Okay. Ice Dragon is a kid's story that George R.R. Martin wrote a long time ago. It's a great story. And apparently they're going to make an animated version into a movie.
Okay.
I think that'll be fun.
No, that's really cool. When you said that, I thought you were going to talk about a new project, and I was going to scream into the microphone.
Well, then I'm glad I didn't, because I'm wearing headphones.
Yeah, well, I know that there's been a few bits of news that have come out where they're talking about adapting a lot of his work, because like any author who becomes famous after they've already been doing it for a while, it almost becomes this it's not necessarily a cash grab, but because there's value in one thing he's done, immediately people go, oh, we can make money off of these other things he's done because of his name and because of the quality as well.
Well, there's also an element of, well, this is quality material. What else has he done? For example, Fever Dream is another Martin story. It's my favorite non-Song of Ice and Fire one. It's his take on vampires, and it is a blast.
Interesting.
I really enjoyed it.
And I think that's cool to see that at the same time, as an author and as a creative, like there are a lot of people who are not getting their stories made or adapted, including some that have been in development hell for quite a while. Brandon Sanderson, a couple of his things were supposed to be adapted for TV. And it's just gotten into development hell at this point. Neil Gaiman, thankfully, has been getting some stuff off the ground. But what was it? The Wheel of Time, that's still supposed to be happening at some point? I don't know. I don't know, but
yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of series that I'd like to see. Don't want to get on a tangent, but I think there's a lot of series out there that they can adapt. I'm glad that people are looking at his work, at his earlier work and other work, and I just hope he finishes the freaking books. I do not want this to be a Robert Jordan kind of situation where his vision is not completed, and that's really what I wish. I don't wish any ill of him. And I know that, I've seen fans, he talks about it where he's he'll tweet about, or he'll post something about, watching a football game, and people just start replying, finish the damn books. And he's like, I can't even watch a football game. It's not even going to conventions. It's I'm at my house taking some time to relax, and I can't even do that. Yeah. I'm not that extreme. I do want him to finish them so his vision is seen through the way that he wants it, though, because it's going to be different than the TV show. It
already has to be. So
yeah, it does.
I could go on another hour long rant.
Yeah.
Last bit of news that we have is that EA is continuing to work on Sims 4, which Tan and Cannon actually talked either last week or the week before. They were afraid that there was a possibility, because Sims has come out on mobile now, that a lot of the team had shifted over to there, and that Sims 4 was not going to be getting any more content. Sims 4 has been more problematic than previous entries in the series as far as being able to just get quality content out, and it's being delivered piecemeal and things. But I just wanted to highlight this little bit of news, even though Sims 4 isn't a game that either of us play, because it's showing that EA is continuing to support the console and PC versions of those games.
Yeah,
so I thought that was cool.
I don't think they're going to move to mobile only. I could see that it possibly would work for something like The Sims, but to me, it's not a graphical issue. It's all about the interface. Being on PC, I don't even like console, honestly, for Sims. I played Sims and Sims 2. I'll be honest. I played Sims and Sims 2. My sister played it. Whitney's played them. She tried it on console and did not like it. Not like it. Diablo worked to transition onto console, but most games do not. I did, and that being said, Sims on mobile, from what I've heard, has not been that great in regards to the interface. Graphics are there, sure, but Sims, I mean, you don't need a huge, robust interface, but you have to act quick when fires start going on. You know, when your person is late for work and they can't get out the door because there's a dirty plate in front of them, like, you need to act quick and pick up the dirty plate. There's ridiculous stuff that happens in Sims, which I think is funny, and it's quirky and it's quaint, and I love it. But I don't see them moving all to mobile, and I'm glad they're continuing to do this. They're going to be Seasons is going to be coming out for that, which obviously adds seasons. I will say Sims is probably one of the first. We didn't call them microtransactions; it was expansion packs back in my day. But Sims was one of the first to add what you would consider to be cosmetic microtransactions. In packs. It was like a $10 pack or $20 pack, and they'd get you all these new outfits, but you also had like some new stuff as well that you could do.
Gameplay tweaks and such.
It wasn't usually gameplay tweaks though. It was
it was not gameplay.
It was like, do you want new furniture? Do you want a different roof? Those kind of things. Like, oh, now you can have a pool. Gameplay wise, I guess you call it gameplay. Careers, Like in the expansion pack, they'd be like, "Oh, you can also be an astronaut now," or something to that effect. Yeah. Which I think is interesting because they were early adopters of that model, and they've not been selling as well as previously. I feel like maybe I don't think subscription would be right for them from a business model standpoint, but I think that it would be good for when they do a Sims 5, because they're going to have to do something like that. They should reevaluate how they do Sims. And I hate saying this because you know how against this we are, but I would think for Sims, a business model of a $20 game or so, and then microtransactions for different things in the game, pack wise. So you're not buying a chair, but it's like, oh, do you like this style of furniture? This is X amount of dollars, and all your furniture that you buy in the current in-game currency, you now have access to this store, and it'll be kind of an more modern furniture. If you want old school like I could see that working for them, not to buy a chair, but to open up like a little bit of the game, and in regards to clothing styles, where it's like, I want all the H&M stuff, because they already do that. $5, you now have access to all of it. I think that would work a lot better than their idea that they previously had, which was $60 plus expansions. I think $20 plus expansions within microtransactions in the game would work really well for them. And just don't have me buy every chair with $1.
Yeah. So that's all the news that we have for this week. Follow us on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on all of those things. We are TWIOCH everywhere except for Twitch, where we are TWIOCH Gaming. And if you want to see me fail at Dark Souls, then catch us there. And we will see you next week with more news.
That's right. Later.
Thanks for watching This Week in Our Collective Heads. Subscribe over here and click the bell, and that way you'll know about any new videos that we put up, because we put up a lot of gameplay, a lot of stories from games and stuff like that, and gameplay is down here.
Yeah, and you got more editorials and news stuff down here. Check it out.